Hi everyone, my name's Luke and welcome to my channel. Today is going to be the start of a bit of an experiment. I want to see how well can a really reasonably priced astronomy scope perform when compared to a really premium priced telescope like the Esprit here that I've been using for quite a while. So to that end, I'm actually going to be swapping over my main imaging scope. I'm going to be taking the Esprit 120 off the mount and I'm actually going to be putting back on the mount my trusty old 150 PDS Newton. Now before making this video, I put out a little bit of a poll on my YouTube channel just to ask for all your thoughts on what you'd rather see. Would you rather see a shorter video on this or perhaps a little bit of a longer and more in-depth one? And quite overwhelmingly you voted to see a little bit of a longer one, so that's what I'm going to make. So today I'm going to be going through the differences between these two scopes, quite a few that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm going to be actually swapping them over as I mentioned and go through the process of recollimating this if it needs it. If not, I'll touch upon it in another video when it does, and also the process of rebalancing, which can be a little bit tricky with a Newtonian telescope. So far since owning my Esprit, I'd really say that it's been just basically perfect. It's never thrown up any surprises, and everything I've pointed it at, it's either met or exceeded any expectations that I had for it. So I feel like I know the scope quite well now, having used it for quite a while, and so I reckon I'm probably in a decent position to do this sort of thing, which is going to be a direct comparison. The last time out was with the Esprit, to the next time out it's going to be with this 150 PDS. I'll probably be able to highlight any immediate differences between the two and bring them all up for you guys and see what you all think, see what I think too. So if we start by taking a little bit of a look at the obvious differences between these two, and I guess first up are the differences in design. We'll start with this, which is the Esprit 120 Super Apo Triplet Refractor. So it's a triplet. That means that the objective is actually a group of 3 lenses that all work together, which brings on to the next point, which is an apo. They all work together to correct chromatic aberration. And it's a super apo, which is actually because it's using 2 ultra low dispersion elements of FPL 53 glass, which is not actually that common, even among high-end scopes. And I guess the final thing is that it's a refractor. That's the design of telescope, and it means that light enters the front, hits those elements, and is refracted by them and sent down the tube to the corrector and finally out to the camera or your eye. My old scope, however, this 150 PDS, is actually a reflector type telescope, so the light undergoes no refraction except until it gets to this coma corrector here, and is instead simply reflected and bounced around inside the telescope. So light enters the front, hits the primary mirror at the bottom of the tube, is sent back up the tube where it's intercepted, the light cone, by a secondary mirror which is mounted on a stalk on a spider at 45 degrees to the light path, which turns that light 90 degrees out the side of the tube, and it comes up this focus area into your corrector if you have one, and then out from that and into your camera. This type of scope in particular is often referred to as a Newt or a Newtonian, and that's just because they're named after the man who started it all with the first one of these, which was Sir Isaac Newton, and his Newtonian reflector. So it's worth noting that both of these telescopes can be used just fine visually as they are. However, using them photographically, you are going to actually want to use corrective elements to get rid of the main optical aberrations inherent to these two types of telescope. They each have their own. So refractors, most of them, I'll touch upon this in a moment, are going to suffer from field curvature. So to correct that, you use a field flattener. That's going to bring everything into focus across the plane of the sensor all equally at the same time, giving you pinpoint stars right across the field, everything in focus at once. Now I said most refractors because some refractors already have a corrective element built in further down the tube. These are often referred to as a Petzval type design. They're often quite expensive, but not really that expensive when you consider that there's actually no more parts to buy for them. They're ready to go out of the box. You just attach your camera, and when you reach focus, you've also reached the correct back focus to use those telescopes at their optimum. So the problem generally inherent to Newtonian telescopes is going to be coma, and I suppose the best way to describe this to someone who's maybe not seen it before is if ever you've watched Star Trek and you know the animation as they're about to go warp, and the stars in the middle are clear and nice and round, and the outside kind of gets elongated radially all the way around the field of view. It kind of looks like that. The stars go from being nice little pinpricks in the middle to kind of turning into more of a dash shape the further and further away you get from the main part of the field of view. So to correct that, you're going to use one of these, which is a coma corrector. This particular one actually isn't the matched one for this telescope. Skywatcher sells one which is a 0.9 times reducing coma corrector, and that is the one that the market has been matched to these PDS range of telescopes. That actually takes us down to 675mm focal length f4.5, and I've been lucky enough to actually own one of those and one of these at the exact same time, which enabled me to do some back-to-back testing. And this corrector is the one designed for actually f4 Skywatcher Newtonians, the Quattro range of telescopes, if you've heard of them, and it's called the aplanatic coma corrector. And basically, when testing the two back to back, I always found that the unmatched corrector, when used at standard specs, 55mm back focus, actually delivered much sharper stars right across the field of view. And another interesting thing to note is that this introduces absolutely no chromatic aberration to the image, whereas the 0.9 reducing coma corrector did actually introduce a little bit in my experience. So as a final kind of touch upon that point, I usually am the last person to recommend buying non-matched parts, as I think it's just adding confusion to an already quite confusing hobby in many cases. But as I do have first-hand experience with this, at least in my case, I can definitely recommend the aplanatic coma corrector for the PDS Newtons. I've actually used it on a 150 PDS, a 200 PDS, and a 250 PDS, and would you believe it, a 300, and it worked on all of them. So the next of the main differences that we can touch upon between these two types of telescope is, I guess, the physical stats. So even though this is actually a little bit physically larger, I would say, perhaps not as long, but it certainly is a little bit bulkier, it's far lighter than the Esprit 120, which you know, if you haven't actually picked one of these heavy appos up, it's always a surprising thing the first time you grab hold of one. It's just, it throws you off. It feels far heavier than it looks. That's not to say that it being heavy is a bad thing, but I guess in a head-to-head like this, you'd have to tilt your hat towards using a lighter scope, as generally it's always just easier on the mount, easier on the guiding, and generally leads to better subs. Of course, it's not all roses. Newtonians tend to be a little bit more tricky to balance because there's some off-axis weight. If I just kind of grab hold of this here a second. So you can see basically you've got this hanging off just like a refractor would, only instead of the camera coming to focus down here out the back of the scope, the light path's been shifted and it comes out of the side. So you've got the weight of the camera hanging off the side, and also, if you note here, I'm going to be using a guide scope. You've got some off-axis weight, which in this case is going to make it slightly east heavy. I suppose if you can have a bias on weight, it might as well be to the east side. In my experience, that leads to a little bit actually better guiding, a slight east imbalance. But again, I thought it were a point worth noting because refractors in particular, every single one I've owned, they kind of throw up no surprises whatsoever when it comes to balancing. You don't kind of balance it on one side, flip it over, and then it's totally out of balance like you can actually experience with a Newtonian. So that's one kind of a split point, I'd say, between them. So there's another big difference, and that's in the actual kind of photographic optical stats of these two. So this is 120 millimeters aperture, 840 millimeters focal length, making it an f7 telescope. And this one here is 150 millimeters of aperture and 750 millimeters focal length, and that makes it an f5 telescope. So photographically speaking, it's actually quite a bit faster than the Esprit. Now, finally, the next main big difference is actually going to be on price. Over here in the UK, these Esprits come in around about £2,500, and I think the corrector is about £250, £260. So you can expect somewhere around 2,750 or so pounds, which I think by anybody's reckoning is a whole boatload of cash. I definitely could not have afforded this thing if it was anything other than a used telescope. Like that's the way I was able to get this after a long time of saving up. Now, on the other hand, the 150 PDS here, I think these retail around about £310 or so now, and the coma corrector that I use is about £260, £250, something like that. So around about £570-ish total. I'm sure you can agree that it's still a chunk of money, no doubt about it, but it's also a whole lot cheaper than going down the route of an ultra premium refractor. I just hope that there isn't that much of a delta between price and performance, and as long as I'm not looking through rose-tinted glasses at how good this telescope used to be, I actually don't think that there is that much of a difference. I guess before I go off it completely, there is one other thing that's worth note. Generally, a refractor tends to be a bit of a tinker-free design. They're not really designed with user collimation in mind. They're just supposed to be mounted, used and enjoyed, which is, who wouldn't like that, you know, thumbs up, it's brilliant. But that's not to say that Newtonians are really held back, because they are actually designed with user collimation in mind, as it's just one of those tasks that has to be performed with them to keep them operating at the peak. So on these types of telescopes, you're going to notice out the back here that I have got a custom little fan mounted, but you can probably see that there's primary adjustment bolts and then locking bolts. A little trick that I've found with these is to actually do your fine collimation and indeed final collimation entirely with the locking bolts on that. It leads to a much more stable overall collimation, and in many cases I've been able to, as far as I remember, take this out session after session and it never actually needed collimating for a good long while. Part of that's probably down to it being a good mirror cell, and the other part of it is down to it being a very light primary mirror, so there isn't actually that much mass jostling around inside, causing it to kind of shake itself out of collimation. Now, if you can probably see up the end of the scope here, you've got this secondary stalk and a set of bolts which are all going to push on that stalk, and that's for aligning up your secondary mirror with your primary mirror. You generally do that first in collimation, so that any light coming up from that secondary is all intercepted. Sorry, any light coming up from the primary is all intercepted by the secondary. You can see the whole mirror. And the actual final collimation is performed on the primary down here. So I think that covers most of it. I'm going to go ahead and take the Esprit off the mount now. This feels like a big occasion because it's been on here for so long now. It feels like absolutely ages. And I'm going to swap it all over, put this one on and see if it needs collimation. Definitely check its balance. So I'm going to need to change this counterweight. I think it'd be far too heavy for this system. And yeah, like I said, check collimation. It's who knows, maybe I'll find a newfound love for collimation and I'll become a Reflector channel. I don't know. Alright, so I think that's the end of the video now. Everything seems to be transferred across quite nicely. I've moved it around on its axes a bit and there's not really any chance of cable binding and things like that happening, so I'm satisfied that it is ready for a night of imaging. depending on how things go, the first time I can test it, I may actually even look into either purchasing another autofocus unit for this thing, or indeed maybe even swapping over the Sesto Senso unit for a while and see how that goes. Until then though, I'm probably just going to use the Bayanov mask and just use it like that and go back to manual operations for a while. It really, it wasn't that bad. I certainly grew used to doing it anyway over the years. I hope that that's been helpful to some of you, and at least hopefully a little bit interesting to watch. It's going to be interesting to me especially. I really want to see how it all turns out. Will this scope be able to do the business when directly compared to this thing, which costs somewhat around about 5 times as much all in. It's going to be interesting to see. I hope you're going to stick around, and let's all see together just how it all turns out. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I say it every time, but I mean it every time. I do appreciate every single one of you. So until next time, clear skies.